and running here. Just wanted to do a quick weather update on this Saturday. It is January 30th, just a couple of days away from the beginning of the new month. We appreciate you guys being here. There's a little echo. Let me get rid of that. There it is. I think we've got everything in order. Appreciate you guys stopping by. It's cold. It's in up here in New York, at least. Let me know what the conditions are like near you. Winter has finally taken hold. It looks like across much of the mainland U.S. And as it should. We are in one of the climatologically coldest parts of the year. And February tends to be the snowiest of all the months for much of the eastern U.S. We've got quite a bit to get to during this live stream. I appreciate you all being here. I did get the message out over to our friends on Facebook. I do want to send out a quick note on Twitter, letting them know that we're on here, and then we'll jump right on into the data here in just a couple of moments. Twitter's always frustrating. 140 characters. There's just not enough that you can say, you know? So let's see. All right, I'm just gonna cut right through this thing, and we'll see how it goes. Okay, and give me just a second. Oh, there it is. Okay, that's good enough for me. All right, that's out. We're up and running about 7 minutes after 5. Thank you for being on here. Got just a few live right now. Thank you for being here. Again, if you don't mind, a quick like and share. As always, it's appreciated. And be sure to hit the notification bell. Let us know to make sure that you know when we are on. Let's get you started with what's happening out there. We've got watches and warnings galore. Take a look at this. So here are the active areas that we're tracking for you. The initial storm is going to be impacting the Midwest first. Winter weather advisories in purple. Another winter storm warning for Chicago and company. Through parts of the Midwest, could be looking at locally better than a foot of snow. From Chicago to Fort Wayne. Does include my alma mater, West Lafayette, Indiana. Cedar Rapids included in that, parts of Iowa. Southern Wisconsin, northern Illinois, northern Indiana, into parts of Ohio. And then there's a whole nother area of warnings up the spine of the Appalachians. It does go from western portions of North Carolina through Roanoke, through Virginia, eastern sections of West Virginia, much of Maryland and Pennsylvania, and portions of New Jersey, northern Delaware, Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, Baltimore also included in that. Further upstream, they've got a winter storm watch from New York City through Boston to Portland. So, multifaceted system, not typical. And let me point out also something else that's occurring right now. Those are active tornado warnings, many of them. There are 4 active tornado warnings, including near Joplin. We'll take a look at the radar imagery coming out of this here in a couple of moments. But I just wanted to point out, well, we've got some noteworthy things to talk about. Let's pull on the precipitation. There you go. You can see those areas. I'm going to see if I can't turn off, there we go, turn off the active watches and warnings. We'll just focus on, I should say, just the severe warnings. There you go. Individual cells near the center of low pressure that's creating, again, some spin in the atmosphere. And that's the reason why we do have tornado warnings at this hour. I'll put this in motion. We're going to come back to this here in a couple of moments. Just kind of a broad brush on what to expect. Actually, it looks like we got an emotion right now. So this is the storm that will be impacting much of the eastern United States. We've got a lot of cold air in place right now, and that will also play a factor. Let me take a look at these temperatures here. And these are current air temperatures where if you're down here near Springfield, it's only 50, but you see the warmth, and you get tornado warnings with air temperatures in the 50s. That's not typical. I'm wondering, these are probably more like cold air funnels. We'll watch that on the northern side where it is colder. We are watching that rain changing over to snow, moving into Chicago. Temperature in Chicago just now near freezing. I'm going to try to get my other radar source up here too. How can I do that? Give me a second. Alright, I'm going to bring up the other radar source that I use primarily for severe weather. And I'll get that up for you in just a couple of moments. But obviously quite a bit happening right now. Thank you for being here. I've got Mike, Brett, Dude, Jim Perry, AMPE is here, Cheryl Evans, and William Hetzel. Thank you for being on, and we appreciate you guys. I'll bring up that other radar source. It's loading now. Did want to give you kind of a broad view, though, on what's happening. We got lots of interesting weather in the coming days. Oftentimes that's the case just because it's the middle of winter. But we are looking at a very active pattern indeed. So I have that up for you coming up here in just a couple of moments. I'm bringing up live radar now out of Joplin, Missouri, where we can get a look at these storms. So let's do that now. And then we'll take a look ahead. Weather model data, how much snowfall during this update. If you're following me from Western New York, there could be some surprises this week. It's not a typical setup that we are seeing right now, but it is one that is blocky in nature. I think could lead to some surprises. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit more coming up here in just a couple of moments. Let's pull up that other radar. I want you guys to take a look at this with me. So this is my, we have no radar all of a sudden. Give me a sec. All right, I'm going to pull up my severe weather radar now. It should be here. Go. Severe weather. All right, we're on it. So again, not typical that you see this. And what this is very simply the amount of energy that we have in the atmosphere down here is quite a bit. But it's not typical at all that you would see tornadic cells with temperatures as cool as they are. I pointed that out already. So let's take a look at what those winds are doing. This is reflectivity on the left with active tornado warnings. We've got a number of them for you. Tornado warning in effect for southeastern Craig County. They just canceled that. Got other ones though. Tornado warning in effect for southwestern Newton, northwestern McDonald County, and southwestern Missouri. Goes till 4:45 Central Time. About a half hour. Got another one. Looks like this is an older one. Tornado warning just been canceled for southeastern Cherokee County. Okay, and that is coming out of Kansas. Now let's move our way back into Missouri here. Tornado warning has been canceled for northeastern Newton, northwestern Berry counties. However, tornadic thunderstorm, which prompted the warning, has moved out of the area. Therefore, the warning has been canceled. But a tornado warning does continue for southwestern Lawrence County. And then one final warning to pass along. Tornado warning remains in effect for northern Delaware and southern Ottawa counties. And I'm looking at the spin in the atmosphere here. On the left, you should be able to see that. Let me see what you're looking at. Right. Okay. And I see one that's got particularly quite a bit of spin to it, where this is located to the between Verona and Pierce City in Missouri, where it looks like we've got gate to gate's not that impressive, but you've got broad rotation on the order of about 90 mile per hour. It's up there. It's up at about, it's actually not too far from the ground. 90 mile per hour shear located at about 2,000 feet. So that's probably the most concerning of the storms. And then there's that other one. Again, some of these warnings beginning to expire. All right, not going to spend any more time on that. Again, the probability of these tornadoes actually reaching the ground with air temperatures as cold as they are, not great. So We'll focus on the winter weather, and you can see that here on our primary radar source making its way through parts of the Midwest. That low is going to morph over time as it encounters the cold air that's in effect. You can see temperatures are in the 20s. Actually got some teens and single digits up here for parts of New England and into southeastern Canada. Plenty of cold air that's going to get invected into the storm. Low pressure located here, and it's going to move in a fashion like this. At some point it's going to cross over the Appalachians this week, and I think that's going to create some interesting weather for us. All right, with that being said, here's a quick look again at the watches, warnings, advisories. They're there. And again, the pink areas are your winter storm warnings. And that's being surrounded by winter weather advisories in purple. And then winter storm watches for parts of the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic in blue. Here's kind of a broad scale futurecast model showing you with our high-res NAM there. And I'm going to also load this into our main computer where we can take a close-up look at that. And then we'll take a look at some precipitation amounts and possible snowfall criteria coming up here in a few minutes. Not going to make this a long-winded thing. I'm going to try to we'll try to wrap this up here within the next 10 minutes. But I do want to get this out just because I don't want to spend tomorrow catching up. I'd rather just go ahead and get on top of what's happening now. So I'm doing that. That's loading as we speak. And thank you for being here. Mike on here. I'm in Clifton Springs, Ontario County. What are you thinking for this area? Now I have to look you up to see exactly where Clifton Springs is located in Ontario. Oh, no, I know where Clifton Springs is. I apologize. Ontario, yeah, you're not far away from where I'm at. I'm going to bring up those high-res computer models, and we'll talk about the output coming up. A lot of uncertainty in days 3 and 4. So we're talking about specifically Tuesday, Wednesday, and how that plays out this week. A lot of uncertainty with that. But I will say that parts of west central New York could be looking at a lot of snow if the Euro is right or the Canadian is right that came in this afternoon. They both are painting a very snowy scenario. Take a look at some of the precipitation amounts here to give you an idea. And I'm going to have a closer up view of your weather, your future model coming up here in a couple of moments. All right, so that's loading, and you're looking at precipitation amounts via the Euro. If this verifies, that is a mess. Rochester, you're on the edge of a lot of snow. Again, if it verifies and it's backed up by the Canadian, it's not a typical system. So models may have a hard time handling what's happening here. So the Euro, while it brings a lot of precipitation to parts of the Mid-Atlantic, some of that rain, some of that snow, could be some very heavy snow for parts of PA, maybe northern New Jersey, maybe into New York City. But I'm interested in this little area here that's getting lake enhancement, and there's an interesting deformation band that it's showing up on some of the models for west central New York, which would be well more than a foot of snow for parts of that region. And I want to contrast that with what we're seeing over here. This is the Canadian. Interesting, where it's got almost 1.5 inches of precipitation. And this is central Wayne County. So somebody was asking about Clifton Springs. If this happens, this is widespread foot plus. I'm not biting on it quite yet, but the fact that we've got both the Canadian and the Euro that's beginning to sell this idea, it's got my attention. GFS, for what it's worth, different story. It would only be a few inches of snow. heavier towards Syracuse. But the GFS also is not the most skilled at that range, so I'm not going to rely too heavily on it at this point. If either the Euro or the Canadian verify, we're looking at a real big mess across portions of west central New York. All right, with that, let's bring up the new model data that's been coming in here this evening and give you guys a look at this. So I'm going to start you with the new run of the GFS, and I haven't looked at this one yet, so it's just now coming in. So let's come on over here, and at the same time, I want to see who's on the program at this hour. Thanks for being here. If you don't mind a quick like and share of the program, as always, it is appreciated. Jim Perry says, Yahoo, 5:20 p.m., still light outside. Days are getting longer. Yeah, right. You mean Yoo-hoo or Yahoo? He's happy. Take a look behind me. I've still got a bit of a view as we take a look out into the bay and out into Lake Ontario. It's all frozen, baby. It's all frozen. You get into Lake Ontario, it's icing up. Something tells me we got a ways to go before we completely cover that bad boy up, though, huh? All right, so thanks for being here. Yeah, we've had ice fishermen out in the bay the last couple of days. It's been very cool. I want to join them. I want to go. I haven't done the ice fishing thing. I'm interested. I want to check it out. And I'm thinking I can get my ice skates out very soon. I think it's deep enough. I want to be careful, though, because, you don't want to make a mistake on the ice, that's for sure. Okay, so here's the new run of the GFS, area of low pressure, moving right through middle Mississippi River Valley now. Any severe threat with that should go away tonight. And then you can see where it takes the bulk of the snow from the Midwest, and then it kind of does this like energy transfer thing that it does when it goes over the Appalachians. Just rain for the lower Ohio Valley, nothing there. But some pretty good snows for the Mid-Atlantic. Higher elevations across the Appalachians could be looking at a lot of snow for like Snowshoe, West Virginia, baby. We love that place. And then there's, the GFS, again, it's very different from what the Euro and the Canadian's been selling. But it does bring some snow into western New York as early as Sunday night and into Monday morning. But again, it keeps the bulk of it south, closer to that low pressure that really is in no hurry to move. This is off of the New England coast. And we have to look for that backside deformation. So it's just now beginning to show up in the new data from the GFS, but you can see some of that backside energy here. Again, it's not a typical system, so it's very difficult to gauge on climatology. We're kind of in a block pattern across the North Atlantic and this part of the North American continent. It's not going to allow these systems to move very fast. So wherever these precipitation bands develop, they may be very persistent, where it could be over a few days of precipitation. So if the Euro and the Canadian are right, and now the GFS is showing hints at this, that could be an extended period of heavy precipitation in western New York. Obviously, just based on these maps, it's heavier for parts of New England. It's going to be quite a walloping for the higher elevations across Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, maybe into the Adirondacks. We'll watch that, but this is the feature I want to see more about. So let's go on over to the Canadian. Make that the European. Watch the European here, and I'm going to take a closer up look at this. So let's just jump right on in to the northeast. And even, here we go. Take that, there you go. So look at this. All right, so we make that jump. We know the low is going to make the jump over the Appalachians. It'll reform. It'll bring some good snows for parts of the Mid-Atlantic. It's difficult to see where that rain snow line will be. Right now, it looks like it's going to be primarily snow. Philadelphia to New York could be big snowmaker. Notice the lack of snow. This is Monday day for most of upstate New York. But look what happens behind this. So this is Monday night. And look at this. So Tuesday morning, that's a deformation zone. And that would be heavy snowfall for much of western, central, and then into eastern New York. There could be a cutoff. Could be a sharp cutoff, though, between Rochester and Buffalo if this sets up. But that would be an interesting scenario because the surface low is moving so slowly that you could just see that snow going and going and going. This is Tuesday evening, Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, still there, not ending till sometime during the day Wednesday. So you could be looking at 36 to almost 48 hours of snow. And of course, it goes without saying, you'd have tremendous snowfall amounts for parts of upstate Maine, Vermont, and New Hampshire as well. Okay, so that's the scenario that we're looking at. Let's take a couple of comments on here, and then let's also come back over and take a look at our updated Futurecast radar. I'm just going to let this loop while I talk about what you guys are talking about, and then we can show a closer up. This is the high-res NAM, by the way, that you're looking at. I'm just letting it loop. I'm not convinced that this is the model that's got it. Typically, the NAM does not do good beyond about 24 to 36 hours. It's not a superior model. But I'm going to let it loop for a minute. Donham, have you found a way to access individual National Weather Service local office radar sites? I have no use for their new radar presentations. I do have access to level 2 data, and I get that from actually a couple of different sources. Iowa State is a great source, by the way, if you want a free source. There's also premium sources available, like Allison House. And there's a couple of others. Barron's offers one. But with that being said, your best level 2, you can get solid, dependable level 2 data out of Iowa State. Okay, with that, let's see here. Am I looping here? What am I doing? Where am I at? Here we are. So showing, again, this is the high-res NAM, which I think it does a fine job initially, and we're going to start tomorrow during the day, 1 o'clock. The snow is exiting the Midwest as it approaches the Northeast. I think this is right. Most of Pennsylvania is seeing snow this time tomorrow. Moves into New York City. Now the question is how far north does it go? It hasn't making its way into western New York tomorrow evening, tomorrow night. And the question is after that. It doesn't, and again, this is not a superior model, so I'm not going to spend more time on it than I have to. Because once we get this far out, now we're looking at 5 o'clock on Monday. You're talking about 48 hours in advance. We'll leave it at that. But with that being said, obviously some interesting weather. We've got lots of cold air that's in place right now that will impact what we see. As far as the amount of snowfall, I think there's going to be plenty of it. Here's a look at the storm as we take a look from the enhanced infrared imagery, and I will bring this down, this segment down for a close here in just a few minutes. We'll finish with snowfall projections via the models. But I wanted to give you an overview first. The storm that we're watching, again, it had many tornado warnings issued. I'm doubtful that they reached the ground just based on what I know about the system. Not enough warm air, so that's doubtful. This will be more of a winter style storm once we get into it, but it's a good looking storm. But again, it's running into some ridging, so it's going to have a hard time moving forward. There's the Jetstream model, Jetstream Energy 500 millibar. And the reason that it's running, the reason it's going to slow down is because what we're seeing right here. So here's the main low, and it's almost vertically stacked at the moment. And that energy is going to try to make its way east, but it's having a hard time. It's hitting a roadblock. And that roadblock is, if you look here, you see this U-shaping. Make that back. It's not really U. It's more like a rainbow. But this is a ridge, and that's going to slow its progression down. And so you kind of have this it's not really an omega, but we're very blocky out here over the northern Atlantic right now, and that's going to prevent the normal propagations. Things aren't going to just zip from east to west like they normally would. It's going to be much slower. And again, not typical, and I think it could lead to some atypical outcomes. And I'm talking specifically when it comes to snowfall. So let's take a look at some of the snowfall amounts. And I'm going to go back over to the GFS because I think the GFS is probably underplaying it across western New York. But with that being said, let's take a look at total snowfall. And total snowfall, we're just going to use a 10 to 1, and we're just going to run this out through midweek. This is the 18Z. I'm going to run it out through here. All right, if the GFS is correct, then you get hit hard across Appalachians, parts of PA, maybe into New York City, and then you'll get some more formation of heavier snows across portions of New England. But let's take a look at the Euro in contrast. Look at the difference. Huge. And that would put, again, much of western New York in play for big-time snow. Make that central New York specifically. Big difference there. And that would be a foot plus. All the way up to Lake Ontario, and the Finger Lakes. The Finger Lakes would be right in the middle of that. I'm not going to get too specific here. I just want to point that out. This is using 10 to 1, by the way, snow ratio, but with colder air temperatures, it could be more than that. To give you a flavor, this is the Kuchera method. Oftentimes, it'll overestimate. But with that being said, these are eyebrow raising. It's got 17 inches up there for Williamson, New York. 17, and then it's got 20 plus from Central, Eastern PA, Philadelphia, Williamsport, Scranton, all the way up through the Finger Lakes. You'd be looking at 1 to 2 feet. We'll see how that plays out. All right, that's it. Again, these numbers are not too different from the Canadian. I'll show that as we wrap up. There's the Canadian. The Canadian shows a pretty good consensus. Canadian's gone buck wild down here across PA, 30 to 40 inches. It might be a little early to talk about numbers like that, but it could be a pretty big snow for a lot of people. Final look again, watches and warnings that are in effect. There's a number of them. 2 separate areas under winter storm warnings. Does include Cedar Rapids to Chicago to Fort Wayne, Indiana. And then the second one up the spine of the Appalachians and the Mid-Atlantic. Question marks about the Northeast. Winter storm watch in effect for downstate New York through Boston and Hartford. We'll watch it. That's all we've got for you right now. I'll finish up with any comments that we have. Cheryl and James and Mike, thank you for being here. If you guys don't mind, a quick thumbs up, and make sure that you're getting notified when I'm on. And I'm assuming most of you guys have subscribed, so share if you can. Let them know that we do have this platform for updating weather. Appreciate you guys being here. If I don't talk to you sooner, have a great remainder of your weekend. Lisa and I will be back with our Facebook program, WxLive, tomorrow night. Look for us at around 9 o'clock. We've been hitting at 8:45 or 9:25. We're going back and forth. We'll make that decision tomorrow. But on that program, we do cover more than just weather. It's news, it's politics, and of course we got lots to talk about with all this stuff. And it looks like we'll be talking about some weather as well. So we look forward to having you guys tomorrow night. Thank you for being here. Have a great rest of your weekend if we don't talk sooner. And stay warm, everybody. We'll talk soon.